welcome to this VentureLab event with Alexander. VentureLab is it's driven by me and my colleague Niklas through SLU Holding. And what we are doing is helping you, hopefully, to be inspired to take the step to be entrepreneurs. You could probably do a business idea, you could develop a product or anything like that. And if you need some help on that way, we can help you with that. We are in a location called Gråhuset at Alna. So if you, maybe not during this very exhausting pandemic, but otherwise you can always drop by and say hello and tell us about your idea or something like that. Or you can give us a call or an email and just explain what you want to do and how we can help you. When you come a little bit further with your idea, you can also apply for funds that can help you develop a prototype or some other verification. So please don't be shy. We are here for you, and this is one of the events that hopefully will inspire you to take the step. So I will leave Alexander to explain more about his company and how he is taking his step towards a more entrepreneurial trip.
Awesome.
I think you can share your screen now, Alexander.
Yeah, let's see.
I hope I gave you the...
Looks so, can you see it?
All right, yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So today we will be talking about crop planning and strategies for crop planning. I'm going to stick with that today because we can't talk about everything that has to with farming to do. So we're just going to do the crop planning today. And hopefully in some way I will help you to do your crop planning better. I'm not sure how many of you that are farmers today or have ambitions to become farmers. But like the structure in this with some of the things are not just for farming, it's also for just planning your company strategies and just planning how you're supposed to do it. But let's go, and I'll start just talking about myself, and then after a while we can do some questions if anyone has any, and I hope that you will learn something from this. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'm Alexander. I am the owner, and I would say that I am Jord. Being a farmer and farming is more than a full-time job. It is a lifestyle, 100%, 200%. I have no background in farming. Like my family is not farmers in any way. I come from a small town in between Uppsala and Stockholm. So I'm not down from the south here in Skåne. My family has always been like very interested in food, especially my mother. We've been out traveling a lot, and one of the main things that I remember from that is that she always brought me to farmers markets and things like around produce and got good produce. So I grew up with that. But my actual background, more work background, is in restaurants, cafes, and grocery stores. Something that has helped me quite a bit in the farming that I've been doing. I started the farm, or started Jord rather. I've had a couple of different locations and farms, but I started Jord in 2017. Before that, I was growing at home. I was actually in one of Niklas' hydroponic courses in 2016. So I was trying out everything from hydroponics and indoor growing. And at one point, we just didn't have space at home. we had vegetables and greens everywhere. And I'm like, we had one room that was like a vegetable room. And then I started taking over the kitchen and the living room and like everything. So then we needed to find somewhere else to, or I needed somewhere else to start farming. So then I moved down to Skåne. My grandparents own not a farm, but they have a gourd. They have a property where I could start farming. So we moved down there in the beginning. An important thing for me that I'm going to start with is like things like values. This is something that I put up from the beginning, and it says something about me as a person and what type of farm we are. And my values would be climate, helping the climate. We all of us know that we need to do something about it, and the food system and things around it. Health is that I've always been super into health, and that the food we eat is the energy we get and the people we become. And taste, and then back to the things with like my background with restaurants, cafes, and grocery stores, and my mother and things like that. Finding new exciting varieties, new vegetables, combinations, things like that for taste. So that is something that I always bring with me, my values. More like farming things. So my farming techniques, I started out with mostly like homestead permaculture type growing. It worked really well, like in that climate perspective, some way. Get the wholeness of like biodiversity and things like that. But if you want to be a profitable farmer, you cannot just focus on permaculture. You will not make enough money. And that is a fact. You can have permaculture courses and do those courses and make money from that, but in a sense of actually producing vegetables and selling them at market, that will not work. And I'm not the first person that is saying that. That's 100%. So I started with permaculture. I'm bringing that with me all the time when I'm doing all my things. After a while, I went into the more market garden, Sean Martin, Curtis Stone, those types of farmers. So then into a no-till small scale operation. And now I'm more into the regenerative side of it. And when I'm talking about regenerative, I'm also talking about not the small scale market farming type farming, but also like how they do it in big scale. Now in the US, this is becoming a really big thing, and how they are in like their big fields with acres and over acres, like hundreds of acres, how they're supposed to save the food system. And regenerative farming, like farmers as John Kemp, everybody should check out John Kemp's podcast. He is by far my biggest inspiration right now. He is interviewing some really interesting people, and also like coming up with some really interesting things. So let's see, more into like the planning of the season. I'm going to start just showing you my first year. So this is in Tomelilla that I was talking about, my grandparents' location. This was where I started out. This was what I came to. We also have my partner, one of my partners. I got two of them, but Taco is one of them, mascot and partner. So this is where I started out. The first thing I do when I plan a season, or the first thing I did this season at least, and we're going to go in further in that in just a bit. But the first thing I did was making a canvas. This is just to get an overview of how your farm is looking from a bird perspective. It's going to give you easier access to see where things are supposed to be planted and when. This is a simple way, just actually taking a pen and paper, just drawing it up. I made this and I printed out probably 30, 40 copies of this. And then I just started to like see how I would fit in things, what things I needed, back and forth like that. It works in a smaller scale doing it like this. When you want to become a bit more efficient and a bit bigger, you need to have a different program for this. which I will show you later how I do. So this is in the mid-season of that. We can go back one. So you see here, zucchinis, here we got brassicas, we got alliums, legumes, zucchini, brassica, alliums, legumes, salads. We try to stick to the plan. There is not enough time under the season to try to do everything different. That is why we are planning from the beginning to have like a plan and a structure for when we are doing it. And that is going to help you out like a lot. So this is the first thing. This is probably like, before you do anything else, you need to do this. This is very important. Everybody wants to go into the seed catalogs. Everybody wants to be going through Johnny's and finding these awesome vegetables and whatever it is. That is not where you're supposed to start. That is just going to make you confused. It's just going to make it harder for you. So the first things you want to do is setting your goals. These are my goals coming from the season 2019 and going into the season 2020. So this was this year, that was Corona year. So I set the goals. My first ones was composing the Sweden's best veggie bag. The other one was harvesting, washing, and packing and making a better lean system of it. Third, integrate cover crops, has to do with the regenerative farming and the permaculture things. Getting interns with passion and energy. Building infrastructure like tunnels, washing stations, and a plant nursery. I'm not sure if you can see the whole thing. Those are more like practical things around the farming, around harvesting, things like that. But then we also need to have, if you want to be a profitable market farmer, you need to do sales and put down numbers and things like that. So in my sales, I'm going from 2019 to 2020. I'm lowering my restaurant sales and focusing more on private customers, just because it works for me. It doesn't say that like you could do the other way around. It's just that it works much better for me, and I like it. I like having contact with people directly. I also want to increase my individual sales and aim at 300 per customer. That is correlated with selling to private customers. I want to up each sale all the time in some way. We're going to go in more to that as well. Third one, finding alternative ways to increase product value. This is that's always going to be there. Either way, it's always going to be there, because farming and profit is really, really, really hard. It's a lot of work. So you always need to find better ways of making your product more valuable. And also revenue. So I set my goal for 350,000 for 2020. That's an equivalent to 50 veggie bags a week from May until November. And just to show you how these things would affect your crop planning, I've done this. So a thing like composing Sweden's best veggie bag, that would then you will need to have a really wide variety of vegetables. So that is going to affect how you're going to plan, how many vegetables you're going to have, like, yeah, the variety of it. Harvest and packing, that is structure, just making things lean, like the lean model, the lean process. If you have cover crops in, you don't have production in that space that you have cover crops. Cover crops are amazing. Cover crops are not the future. It's probably like, it is the future, but it was also the past. But if you plant cover crops, you're not going to make money from that space when you have the cover crops in. So that is something you also need to have in consideration. With interns, it's just like having people working for you. Gives you more time to have more space, grow more vegetables, and experiment more. And infrastructure is also just for seeing what you can plant. So like growing heat-loving crops, I mean, you need to have a tunnel that is made for growing heat-loving crops. For extending seasons, if you want to plant early or really late, you need to have tunnels. And let's see, I can't really see the other one there. Can I move this? Yeah, there I can. Okay, so then more for the sales. The first one up there, lower sales to restaurants. The same there. It's having more variety of product. Increasing the individual sales would be something like, this is just an example, but it would be something as adding flowers and selling that as its own product to increase. Say that someone buys a veggie bag from me, which I sell often for 250 crowns. They may also buy something that is completely different as flowers for, say, 50 crowns. Then we have 300 crowns. Alternative ways, increasing product value. Something like being the first to market with a specific type of vegetable will increase the product value. It could be other things as well, like refining products, making kimchis, making salts, selling plants. Like there's tons of different things, but like early harvest, one of them. And the revenue, that's just gonna say what we need to grow and how much we need to grow of each vegetable. I mean, if you're just gonna grow potatoes on 2,000 square meters, which I'm gonna show you now, but I had 2,000 square meters, you're not gonna make 350K. That's impossible. Maybe if you're doing tubers, but it's really hard. So you need to plan out which vegetables and how much vegetables to go to your revenue goals. See, this is my first time in Zoom. I'm better at weeding than I am at Zoom, I promise you. So I'm just gonna try to find where I...
Well, that's good because you're a farmer, not a
Yeah,
season.
it is, isn't it? Let's see, now I found it. So these are my sales channels. The first one is Rekring. That is where I sell to my private customers. Probably everybody knows what Rekring is. But if you don't know, it's through Facebook, where I put up my products each week and people pre-deliver and pay before. Really big in Sweden, is gonna explode this year. Like in the whole of Sweden, it's gonna be really big. The second one is restaurants, the third wholesale. For Rekring, it's for private customers, so then we need to focus on variation. Other things are also that we're selling things in bunches or packaged. And it's type of vegetables for Rekring, so it's a private consumer. We want to have everyday consumption vegetables. That will sell best. I've been doing this now for 4 years, and the standard vegetables sell best. You can do the specialty things. You're going to sell small amounts of them, but things that people use every day, it sells like butter. It sells really well. For restaurants, it's very important to have consistency. If you don't have consistency and promise something that you can't keep, that is going to be issues. That has happened more than once. One of the reasons why I'm going away from restaurants, because they want, like, if they set menus, and some restaurants set menus 5 times a year, 6 times a year, then they want to know that they can get the product that you actually promised them. If you don't do that, that's going to be an issue. Also things like freshness, unique vegetable profiles. And when I'm talking about unique vegetable profiles, we're talking about things as flavor, like a wasabi arugula, that is very, very special. Also like character and things, say, if you want to have like consistency, if it's something that is really crisp, that tons of restaurants appreciate, would be a Hakurai turnip, something like that. For wholesalers, I just have one. I don't sell that much to them, but I have some products, and with them it's more bulk orders. Also their consistency, not as much as the restaurants. They're more picky with that. It's not going to be as much variation when you sell to wholesale. It's probably 1 or 2 different varieties, for most of the time at least. And this is just afterwards I put down what my revenue was for the different segments. So I had 70% of my sales 2020 to Rekring, and that was because I focused my sales on them, the private customers. Here is a picture from my plot it's not right now, it's in the beginning or sometime in 2019. This is the only drone footage I have, so you won't see any more, but this is how it looks. So this is how it looks, but we need to get this down in some way in what I'm calling the canvas. When I'm talking the canvas, it was that drawing I made that I printed out 30, 40 of them and wrote it down. But instead of doing that, I am instead using Excel. There are tons of different tools. I know there's, I can't remember the name, but there's one company that you actually can buy some kind of solution where you type in what type of vegetables you want, how much you want, and it's going to help you make this for you. I think it's Tend. Yeah, it's Tend, American thing it works really well, but it's a cost. Excel is not that expensive and you can do tons with it. So this is the plot. It's 2,700 square meters of growing space. In this space, I've got 160 beds that are 10 meters long and 75 centimeters wide. I'm doing the same as all the rest of them, the standard measurements on the beds. I'm having 35 centimeter paths on everything. I tried different path widths that are less than 35 centimeters. Doesn't work for me. I want 35 centimeters or more, but 35 centimeter works well. Except that was these 160 beds here. I got 2 polytunnels that are 4 times 20 meters. So when I'm planning this out, I want to make it in some way so I can just structure it. So what I've done, I made these segments. So it's 40 beds. I'm doing them in sections. This is section A, B, C, and D. You can do 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever, but I'm just doing one A, B, C, and D. In each section, there are 40 beds. Now I didn't get through there, but you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. So I just put this out on a map. Other factors that I consider when I'm doing this, just the canvas, is things as crop rotation. And when I'm talking about crop rotation, it's mostly the brassicas. Brassicas is one of those that we have had issues with some things, but if you grow them in the same spot, you will probably have issues if you grow them in the same spot too many times. Something that I have noticed. It would be the same with like potatoes as well, but I've tried potatoes, it's not the same. But brassicas, I want to see where I have grown brassicas and when they are going to be in the future. Another thing is nutrients and compost. I haven't marked this out on this, but I have my inner planning on where I put on the compost, how much I put on, and what nutrients and nutrient availability where, just to know. Third thing, drainage. I've put it out here with the blue lines where I have had drainage issues. That is something that will determine what type of crops I can grow there. If it is too compacted, I cannot grow crops that have long taproots. I can grow crops that have short taproots like radishes or like salads or very shallow roots as peas. But I can't grow anything right here, right now, before I fix that, that have very deep taproots. And last thing is irrigation, just putting it out so you know where it is. I put out mine here with the red lines. These are my sprinklers where the crosses are, so I know how far the sprinklers actually cover. Yes. So now we have the basics. We have our goals, we have the canvas, we know where the brassicas have been, like this is the basics. The other things to continue that you will need is a vegetable spacing chart, so you know how many of each vegetable you're going to get in one bed, depending on what size of bed you're using. I'm always using the same because it makes it easier for me. So some spacing chart, some propagation plan, when and where you're going to seed your transplants. Seed inventory, just what you have and what you're going to get. Planting and seeding, so that is when you take your seedlings and transplant them. Also direct seeding, I put in the same one. Harvest dates, harvest data, how much you would get from one bed to actually plan that out. And I would also put in a soil test. We're going to go through these. So this is how mine look. This is my planting and spacing chart. And here I put down everything that works for me. I've gone through all of Sean Martin's, I've gone through all of Curtis Stone's, and I've done tons of my own trials. So very simple, just type of vegetable, what type of tray they're going to be in. So say broccoli, it's going to be in a quick pot. I only use quick pot, so 72 cell tray. How many rows in the bed? This is how far from in the row, so how far in between they are. And then with these, I can quite quickly calculate how many plants I get from one bed. On the side here, I always have just so I can sit with a mind map and just type down different things. So this is more like seed count on a 5-meter bed. Also what I do, especially if you want veggie bags, if you want, I'm going to have like a CSA or something, I just make a mind map of when things could be ready to harvest. This is not something that I just have it as mind map. I'm not very thorough with this. It's just so I get like a visualization in my head of what can be harvested when. And this is going to help me to know when I can plant things and also when I can harvest them. So this is a seed inventory. In this part, I would write down how many seeds I have of each variety. This here is just mind map for what I need. This is what I have planned to plant. So radishes, I want 40 meters. Then I need to calculate that, and we can't see radishes here. It's a long Excel file, so I can't go down. But then I need to have that in consideration. I need 40 meters of radishes. How much seed is that, and so forth and so on. I also have where I buy the seeds from. So here are all the varieties, where I get them from. If you have just a couple of varieties, it's not going to be that hard to know where you get them from and so forth. But if I think this year I had 95 varieties or maybe more, and it's from 5 different seed companies, to make sure that you have the seeds when you're going to plant them, you need to have some kind of structure in that. So when I order these, I go through one by one and just order as much as I want. At the same time, I also do different characters of them. So what type of vegetables I'm going to have. So say like mango, this is a small leaf mango, which I buy from Semenko. It's called Charlie. It doesn't really have any stage, or if it's in spring or in autumn, you can plant it whenever. And it has red stems and small leaves. So in that chart, I would put down something like that. So when you've done that, then that is when you're supposed to like say this stage here. When we go back here. This is when you should start looking at seeds. Before that, I would not do it. I would do the basic things first, and then go and start checking out seeds. There. So now we have planned what seeds we want, how much of each we want, and so forth. Now it's the propagation plan. I'm doing them weekly, at least for this year. I'm planting every week. And for this, I don't have that I need to plan on like a Monday or every Tuesday or something like that. I have the whole week on me. So I say week 11, the salad can be planted on Monday, and the oregano or whatever it's called, oregano, it can be planted on Sunday. But in this week, I want to plant it. If I have seeded it, I put like a green mark on it, so I know that it is seeded. More specific, so say salad. So somewhere in between the 9th and 15th of March, I'm planting salad. It's supposed to be planted for 1 row. This is the cell tray size. I'm doing 128 cell trays for salads. It's going to be 1 bed, or one tray, and 120 plants. So in spinach, we're doing 128, but we're doing 6 trays to fill 1 bed. 3 trays to fill 1 bed, and total is going to be 335. I also put down when it's going to be planted. And then this is the next one. This is much more data. So here I have both the transplants, when it's supposed to be transplanted, and direct seeded. These two need to be correlated with each other. Here I'm more specific on which bed it actually is going into. So as I said before, I have these sections, A, B, C, and D, and 1 to 40. And this is where it's going to say where that is supposed to be. How many
It seems like Alexander has some issues. Hopefully he will come back. We'll give him a few minutes.
Can you hear and see me again?
Yeah, man.
Okay, awesome. I had some issues with the internet, so we're just going back to the PowerPoint. There we go, back in business. Yeah, so it's a lot of data in this to make this work between those. I did it this way. You can do it tons of different ways. You can make it much more simple. And I'm also going to show you how my new planting and seeding schedule looks like. But this is how I did it this year. It worked well, but it's a lot of work in making all this like correlate together, when I'm supposed to seed and when I'm supposed to transplant and so forth and so on. This year I was super ambitious, so I also wanted to have like a visual plan of it. So except this, I also made more like a visual plan of when I seed, when I can harvest, and things like that. This is super overkill. You do not need to do this. Like really not. It's just, it makes it easy for me just to see how long and when I can like harvest things. And I can see like a perspective of all things. Here I also like put in things like when I'm supposed to cultivate, which day, and when I'm supposed to burn, like weed burn things and things like that. But this I would just say is a bit too much, actually. I did it once, I'm not going to do it again. So this is then the result of all the things that we've been going through. I'm just going to try to move that up there. So as we said, we've been focusing on veggie bags. That's my thing. This year we did 95 varieties. I try to integrate the cover crops as much as possible, but it's hard in a small scale. So for this year, I'm just integrating them in the autumn as a cover crop under winter. We've standardized the system with how big the beds are, how long the beds are, things like that. And also the thing that we were talking about, like sections, just making it simple. And this also helps you to prioritize the other tasks that need to get done before you start the season or under the season also. So you maybe don't see it here, but before I had 2 polytunnels here, I wanted to extend my season. So I have early plantings and late plantings, and I wanted to grow chilies and tomatoes in a bigger scale, also cucumbers. So for that, I needed to invest in making my polytunnels into more permanent structures. So what I did was I moved one of the polytunnel there, where it looks like the awesome flag, and I moved it there instead. And then this became actually a flower bed. This just, when you have this planned out, like it's just going to help you with all the things. Let's see if we can. Oh, so this is just so you can have a visualization of how things go. On the left side, this is in the beginning of the season. Don't know why both of them are on at once, but here you can see one of the things that I prioritized was not moving the tunnel there, but prioritizing uncovering and fixing this plot. And then later in the season, making the tunnels, because the tunnels I don't really need until when I'm going to plant the tomatoes. Like that, it's that easy. So in the beginning of May-ish is when I wanted the tunnels up. Also, let's see, here is in the late season, the farm. Go through there, it's in turnips. We got different, then we got choice sum, awesome vegetable, kohlrabi, spinach. We got some alliums, carrots, salads, early carrots. Here is one of the plots that I have some irrigation problems with. So we are integrating cover crops in there to make the drainage better. That is probably the best way of doing it, is with cover crops. And here is just the other side of it. So here you see the brassica field with different types of cabbages, white cabbage, pointy cabbage, red cabbage, and different types of kale. So this is really late in the season. This is just a compost experiment I'm doing. Boom. Yeah, so there we go. That was from 2019 to 2020, how I did it. It's not like you don't need to do it the same way anyway. It's just how I did it. I think like I did it way too overkill the last season. Like you don't need to do it that extensive. You don't need to do that visual thing. Like you need some of the things you really need to get done right. Like the crop spacing needs to be like super tight. That is all about money. If you don't have the right crop spacings, you're going to lose money. That's just how it is. So for the season 2021, the one that is coming, I have changed it a bit, seen which things that work well and which things I need to improve on. One thing that went really well was selling to private customers. As I said, the Irrigation is getting bigger and bigger, and I've found a good concept with these veggie bags. People really love them to get like the variety of things at once. But for this year, I'm focusing on even simpler veggie bags, not having as much variety. That is going to help me, because the more variety of crops you have, the more planning it is going to be in all stages. It's more planning in just the stage that when you're going to plant it, when you're going to harvest it, when you're going to weed it, but also where you're going to sell it. That's also like a big part of it. If you have 100 different crops, you need to sell all of those crops. Sometimes it's like really hard when you have those many crops. So for this year, I'm just focusing on making the veggie bags simpler. So less variety and growing more top sellers. The vegetables that I know people like, in my case, it would be vegetables as spinach. People are crazy in spinach. Would be turnips, hakurai's, always work, carrots, peas. Like peas sell really well. Radishes. Those are like the top sellers with a bit more profit in them. You actually make money from those. You can grow other things like cabbage as well. It's super popular, but you won't make as much money on cabbage. The prices that you get in stores are way too low to be competing against. So the third thing is integrating cover crops in the system all year round. I am, as I said in the beginning, really into regenerative farming, finding a way to close the loop of nutrients, and having a system that is regenerative. I truly believe that cover crops is the way of doing that. It's just that we need more knowledge, or at least I need more knowledge on how to actually sow the cover crops and what different functions the different cover crops have. We're going to talk a bit more about that. Another thing, we're going to sell transplants just to get more profit and something that we're already doing. Make more habitat for the beneficials and even more biodiversity. This is when we're going into the permaculture bit of it. I saw some really interesting things the season of 2020, where I have integrated some things that have affected me very positive in the way that beneficials have come to my plot. In the end of the season, I didn't have row covers on anything, and I didn't have any issues with anything. Sure that I had it on like a couple of brassicas. I had some, if there was some kind of moth or something, but like there was almost nothing at all. And that is because of beneficials. It's probably the birds that have helped me to eat up all those small insects. And this is things that I see all over my farm. Wherever I'm doing something, get in that permaculture perspective of things to attract the beneficials. They are your workers. I mean, they really help you with things. And that is just how it's nature's way of balancing things. So more to that, like simplifying the planning, as I said, 2019 to 2020, way too overkill, make it easier, just make things lean. With the sales, we are keeping the restaurants that we have, but then making even higher sales and more sales to private customers. I'm keeping the restaurants because they are really good for marketing. You can market your products through restaurants. I have 3 restaurants that I have a good relationship with. And the other thing is also they take the weird vegetables. The restaurants I work with, they like special vegetables, and that are more my experimental vegetables that I am growing, like the wasabi arugula that I was talking about. Same this year, increase individual sales to 350 per customer instead of 300. I was almost there. I think I was on 260-ish last year, but this year we're trying to go up to 350 instead. And that is with the next point, which is selling products that are refined. So in this year's planning, we are going to integrate how we're going to refine products and make different types of preserves like kimchis and things like that. So when I have this in my plan, I'm going to refine products. I need to put this in as well, because then I need some specific vegetables for that specific purpose, as like cabbage. As I said, cabbage, you make no money from cabbage. It is like, it's really hard making money from cabbage. But if I grow cabbage and I make sauerkraut from cabbage, I make more money from cabbage than I make from spinach. So that is just one of the sales things that I am tweaking this year. I would say that I would not go into this if I would be in my first years of farming. Then I would go find someone that could ferment the things for me, or have some kind of like a cooperative thing with them. But if you are new to farming and you don't have it down, do not take one more task. There is enough tasks on the farm, and having one more that is like refining products, it's just going to be way too much. Revenue for this year, 540K. The same with last year. I set 350. I did 330. It's not really there, but not far away. And that is equivalent of 80 veggie bags from the week of May until November. Just give you a perspective of what 540K is. Yeah. So this is the farm for 2021. As you see, I have this part that is here is the one that we were focused on last year. But we also have this new plot that we are doing a bit different than earlier years. The new system is with 30-meter beds instead of 10-meter beds. I'm going to explain why in just a minute. We're doing more high profit crops. When we're talking about high profit crops, we could do like probably a lecture in 1 hour just on high profit crops, what you're supposed to think about and so forth and so on. But the most of it is crops with low DTM, so that have from seed until harvest have low days to maturity, as like salad greens or baby greens, or that will have 30 days, or radishes 30 days, or turnips 40 days. Things that you can turn beds and have in one space. You can probably have 6 different successions in the same space. Those are, for the most part, the high profit crops. Then you can also make other crops as tomatoes and things like that high profit if you can sell them for a high enough price. I've just found that tomatoes, which most of us see as high profit crops, are in the end not as high profit as we actually think. It's a lot of time and energy to make that work.
Sorry to interrupt you, Alexander. 10 more minutes.
Okay.
We would love some question time as well.
100%. I'm actually done quite soon.
Okay, great.
So you can ask how much you want. So let's see, this is the new plot. I'm putting this in 2 segments. On the left, with pumpkins and tomatoes, that is a passive plot. Pumpkins and tomatoes do not take that much time. So they're just going to be there as a passive crop for this year. And pumpkins, if you have enough nutrients and if you give them enough water, they're going to do just fine. Potatoes, like it's you don't need to do that much. You need to weed once or twice maybe. But this is our newest project, my newest project. How I am thinking here is that I'm doing 30-meter beds. As I said, I'm doing my vegetable bags. I am doing them much simpler this year. So this will be the basics for my vegetable bags. I have divided these 30-meter beds into 3 groups where you see the different colors, and each group has 7 beds. That is also a crop rotation. So it would be something like that I would put in an peas or something, a legume in the first one, a high energy crop that needs tons of nutrients as the second one. So it would be like a zucchini, then carrots, some kind of alliums, some kinds of herbs, beets, and a quick variety of kale, like a brassica rather. And then each year we're going to move, say the zucchini is going to go one to the left, and then the peas are going to the kale. And it's just going to go on round and round like that. And this is just an experiment to see if we can increase the biodiversity even more in it. For this, we talked about how like planning out things. The most interesting thing here is that I'm trying to make it simple in the way that I am. I can see it right now, but here we can see that I've given it the name tidiga primarer, so it's the early plot. So I'm dividing up my plot in smaller plots just to make it easier to describe for people or interns that are helping me where they're supposed to go. So this is one of them. Yeah, let's just focus on that for now. So that's one of them. All of the green spaces where you see is where I am planning to integrate cover crops. And I'm doing it in 4 stages. So I'm doing one that would be, this is the early planting. Directly after that, I'm putting in a cover crop. That's one of the things. So early planting and cover crop after that, and having a cover crop that is, say, 90 days or 70 days, and then having an autumn planting in the same space as well. So I get 2 successions. Another one would be to just have legumes. So I'm doing tons of fava beans. They are really good for soil benefits. So I'm doing tons of fava beans. And say the third one is more passive one. So if I have successions, say that I grow anything. I grow beets first. They're there for 80 days. And then between the crops, I'm doing a short cover crop. That's just 35 to 50 days. Then I mow it down and put in the new type of vegetable that's coming in. That is going to work. I've been checking this out, but I'm super excited for this. We will see how that cover crop thing goes. This is my planting schedule, my transplant schedule. I have everything on this now. So as you see, I don't have 2 different ones. I've made it much more simple. In the left part, just what type of vegetables. Here is how many meters of each vegetable I have planted or going to plant. It's just going to give me an estimate of how much of each vegetable I'm going to have. When things are going to get transplanted or seeded, and when they're going to get planted. And it's the same in all of these. The last one is those 30-meter beds, how I've been thinking about planting them. One bed is 30 meters. So in this case, we're doing 50 meters, one bed of legumes. We're doing one bed of zucchini, shallots, carrots, cilantro, shiso are together, and then beets and kohlrabi. And then 3 successions. So I can just say that I am not ready with all of my plan for this year. Earlier years, I have planned out every month of the year. Now I'm just doing until May. After that, I'm in beginning of May when I know more what I want to grow, or what, like, I have some questions where we're going to sell this year. We have some new projects coming up. So in May, I'm going to do the rest. But just for your sake, I would actually plan the whole year just to get a perspective of it. But give yourself time. Don't do it like you need to get in 7 crops or successions in one bed. It's better to aim at 3 and then get in 5 than to get super stressed and try to get in 7. I promise you, I've been there. That's all for me, for now at least.
Thank you so much, Alexander. You truly went through the whole thing you need to think about when you are a farmer in a small-scale farmer. Or brilliant. Thank you very much. I saw that there was a question in the chat that what crops do you plant as cover crops in the autumn?
In the autumn, I'm doing winter rye. I'm trying a different ones, but the ones that have worked absolutely best is winter rye, like all categories. It just works. It covers quick, it withstands the frosts. It just keeps on growing. I've done some other ones where I've tried with different types of grasses, also with what would you say, tillage radish, is that the name of it in English? And peas. Right now I'm trying different ones for different periods, but I would say in winter, I would say that winter rye is the best to go for, at least here in Sweden.
Great. There's some more questions. Do you have any problems with perennial weeds, and how do you keep them away?
Oh, I got most of them. I don't got nettles yet, but they're probably going to come. But we have couchgrass, quackgrass. We got loads of thistles. The first thing I do is I use tons of tarps. For perennial weeds, I tarp. So one of them would be, so there's especially two of them. That was a big issue with one. And one is the Canadian thistle. Another one is couchgrass or crabgrass. And what I do, I just cover them for long enough. They're going to pop up when everything else dies. They're going to pop up, and then you need to pick up the roots. If you don't want to cover it for like at least 1 year, you will need to pick up every single piece of root. With that said, there is other techniques for, like, if we're talking about perennial weed as the thistles. Thistles, from what I've understood, have some symbiotic relationship with the anaerobic bacteria. So if we can get away that anaerobic bacteria and make the soil have more aerobes or more air, most of those problems will probably go away. The weeds tell us what the problems are in the soil. It's yeah.
Great. There's a lot of questions popping up here. Let's see here. There's one about if you do you always use agro-textiles, or did you consider mulching with straw wood chips?
Yeah, I mean, like, they were going to the climate part of it and some permaculture things. I use straw. Like down here in Skåne, we don't have very good access to wood chips. It's expensive here, so that is one of the things that I just won't consider right now. It's too expensive. It's not worth it. What I use right now is bedding from horse stables that's very close by. It's good, but it also brings with weeds. So it's like you get benefits, but you also get problems with it. Most of the things, if you use straw, is going to have some kind of weeds in them. I'm still experimenting with it to actually get it to work, because that is what I want to cover with. But just for now, the fabrics work really good. And if you take care of them, they will last like a long time.
Great. You mentioned you used fertilizer. What is it more specifically that you use? Where is it from?
Okay, so we tried different ones. We do nettle teas, like different teas, especially then with nettles and comfrey. That's like an extra boost I would give to my vegetables. That's like an extra thing. I use horse manure, which I get from the stables. They're just 100 meters away. They're really close. I have some extra just to get like the basic fertilization I use from Semenko. Have different ones. I think from Semenko this year I use the Plant PK 8, I think it's called. It just has a balanced ratio with NPK in it, and some extra microorganisms and molasses to give some extra boost to the microorganisms. Except that I also do use, I'm not sure what it's called in English, but basaltsmjöl. Some minerals from the ocean floor to get more of the micronutrients. Yeah, that's probably the, like, I try some other things as well, like aloe vera things and what's it called, the one that's smelly. Yeah, I use some other ones as well, but those are the main ones. And compost, of course, compost. That's a big one. Compost. It's carbon. So when we talk nutrients, we need to also be talking about carbon, and there is where the carbon comes into play.
Okay, great. One more question, and then we'll just let everyone go. What advantages do you, to sell produce through recurring?
Flexibility is the #1 advantage. When you go to restaurants, as I said, they want consistency in both when you can harvest and how much you can harvest. That is one of the hardest things when you start out as a farmer, and even when you are a farmer. There are so many variables in growing vegetables, and so much can happen. So when I sell like my veggie bags, it's more of what I have. Like I plan as much as possible, but there is always issues with something that is like not ready yet, or like came a late frost or whatever. But then I just put in what I have and see that I have extra of many different things. The other thing is that I actually can inform people. Like I can speak to people and inform them about things that I have learned with things that have with farming to do, like with different types of, if it's ecological, bio, or krav, or whatever it is. I can give them information, and that gives a lot back to me, that I can give something to them more than just the vegetables.
Right. Alexander, you've truly made a good presentation. It's great to see and to learn that it's so much more than just growing vegetables, and all that work you've done before even starting buying seeds. Brilliant. Is there any way, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
I would say my Instagram is probably the best way. I'm not that connected with like social media at all, but you can write to me. I'm probably not going to write back the same day. I have so many things going, but if you wonder something, write to me. When things are up and going, come out to the farm. Just like I can give you a couple of minutes and whatever you're thinking about, and it like gives a lot just being out visiting farms, not just mine, as many as possible. And I must say, like I'm not sure how you guys have taken this in with all my charts and things. It may be a lot of things to like take in, but like the thing is, like it gets easier. And the first year, it took me like a couple of weeks making these charts and planning. This year, when I did the 2020 to 2021, it took me 2 days. It's when you have that knowledge from earlier years and you can go back to old charts and old pictures and things like that, it just gets so much easier. It's just like you need to just be learning by doing. It's going to get easier, I promise you.
And maybe you can teach those who come out to your farm and help planting and weeding. Maybe you can help them with some Excel as well. They pay you with work and you pay them with knowledge.
That's how we do it.
Yeah, because I guess you want some people helping you.
100%. That's how it works. I mean, we're in that type of industry where I can't afford paying anyone right now. I can't really afford paying myself right now, even though I'm doing it in a quite professional scale or whatever we're going to call it. But we need interns and things like that, and that is what I give back. As I had as one of my points, I want people out at the farm that have passion. Passion is everything. Like I have had so many interns that just think it's fucking boring being out at the farm, and I'm talking about things and they don't really care, and then I don't really care, and it just gets boring being at work. So now my thing is like I want to find really passionate people where I can be like just be going and talking about vegetables in like the most nerdy manner I can, because that is how you actually learn. The best way is going out to other farms, seeing how they're doing, talking to the farmer, and then just with experience.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot. And once again, if you want to get some help with a business plan or business ID or product ID, don't hesitate to contact us. We are here to help you, and maybe you can be the next VentureLab promo in the future.
That would be awesome.
Telling us about your great business. So thanks a lot, Alexander. We really appreciate it, and good luck this season.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. When Corona is over and we can be like in actual having a not a Zoom presentation, I would
we get back to you
guys. That's one of the things with farming is that we do not have that much time, so we can't really go and like meet people, but like all farmers want to meet other like super passionate farmers, so it's fun that I could do this today, but it would be even more fun if I could be there and see all of you guys and give you some time with your questions or even more time, whatever. Yeah, awesome that you had me.
We'll try to arrange it.
Awesome, thanks.
Great. Have a nice day. Nice weekend.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.